Just wait for the... There you go.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
Hi, I'm Holly.
Hi, I'm Marie.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
Hi, I'm Ann.
We are coming to you live from LivingFelt because it's Happy Woolly Wednesday! Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. We are so excited to be here with you today. We are feeling quite wicked in our Felt Wicked hats. All of these hats today are made by the magical Kate Koprowski of Felt Wicked. And she's been here for 2 days in the studio felting a pretty cool mushroom hat that you're going to get to see today. And she's in town to teach a workshop. So we're so excited to share her with you for a Q&A today. How are you guys feeling about your hats?
I love it.
Amazing. Oh my God.
These hats feel amazing, and I wish you guys could be wearing one with us too, but you're going to learn more about how you can maybe make your very own Felt Wicked-ish style hat on today's show.
Yeah.
I know we have friends all over the world, so what we want to do is say hi to a few people. Some of the fairies have some things to share with you, and then we are going to do a Q&A with Kate, and you're going to get to look up close and personal at a few more of her hats. So get your questions ready. If you are watching live, use the chat box over to the side. Everyone who enters in the conversation today gets a chance to win some fun prizes at the end of the show. And if you are watching the playback, use the communications box down below. Leave us a comment. We want to hear what you have to say. So let's jump right into it. You guys ready?
Yeah. Ready.
Okay, cool. Thanks for being here, everyone. I am Marie. We are LivingFelt. We are based in Central Texas. But as you will see, we have friends all over the world, and thank you guys so much for being here. I want to say hi to a few folks and just welcome you to the show. All right, guys, I know that I'm probably talking a little bit loud, and I'm going to adjust. Sorry if we're too loud. Turn it down just a pinch for you and see how that is. Y'all, if you have any technical issues or anything like that, post them in the chat box. We'll watch and make sure that everything's going well. And thank you all so much for being here. So I think the first step today, I'm going to take off my magical hat, although I confess that I really don't want to. I don't want to take off that hat. First up today is Miss Fairy Hannah with something to share with you. Thanks for being here, y'all.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? So I'm just sharing with y'all that we've got a pretty special item back in stock, and that's going to be our Nikki and Nikki tools. So these tools are going to be great for wet felting projects. They're semi-aggressive, so they do a little bit more work than your hand, but they're great for fooling projects. We have everything between this guy who's about 8 inches long. He's our mini. He's going to be great for the inside of slippers or handbags or just doing smaller felted projects. We also have our big one, who's a very large tool. He's going to be great for wall hangings. I'm sure y'all know, y'all's wet felters out there know how long it takes to wet felt a very large project. And these guys definitely help assist in that process. So they're all back in stock, every size. I think we've got about 4 sizes. And they're all ready to go. If anyone's curious to try them out, they're great, great fun tools to work with. Thank y'all so much. Next up, we got Miss Holly.
Hi guys, since we're talking about wet felting, we wanted to show you our French olive oil soap. We love it. It is the best for getting into those fibers and helping you wet felt it. It is a natural scent, so it's unscented. And it is one of our favorite products. And now we're going to have Miss Kayla come in.
Hi everybody. I was so inspired by last week's Woolly Wednesday that I made my own little long furred critter here, and his name's Mr. Grumpy Pants. He is super grumpy about how cute and fuzzy he is. He's made of merino top in sunshine with just a little teeny lock on the top, some of our hand-dyed locks. And since we're on the topic of hats today, what did the hat say to the coat rack?
I don't know.
You wait here, I'll go on ahead. That one kind of takes a minute. Yeah, and we've got Miss Marie coming back.
Thank you so much, Kayla. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm sorry if our sound has been a little extreme today. We're trying to get that adjusted and rectified for you guys. Yeah, because I'm loud, or we're loud, and Kate is soft. So we're trying to get that all dialed in for you guys. Bear with us just one second. So here's what we're going to do. Today, Kate Koprowski is here with us of Felt Wicked, and we're going to do a little show and tell and share with her. So come on in, Kate. Yay, y'all. Big round of applause for Miss Kate. This is Kate Koprowski, and you've been here for a couple of days felting with us.
Yes, I have, and I have loved it. This place is amazing.
It's a lot of fun, and it's so fun for me to get to have another felt maker here. We get to talk shop all week, and
Yes.
I get to watch you felt.
We've been fiber geeks, basically.
Oh gosh, yes we have. Okay, Kate, so maybe just give them a 30-second about you. I'm just going to make an adjustment here.
So, I am 34, and I've been felting for a few years now. I remember I started around 2010, but I've been making hats, let's see, since 2013. And I live in Kentucky right now, and I live in Lexington. I live there with my husband. We are loving life because I am doing what I love every day. I am felting, I am making beautiful hats, I am doing art, and it is just the best. I don't know what else to say about me except that I'm really glad to be here at LivingFelt. I have loved getting to know Marie over the past couple of days, and I've loved working with her and making the tutorial that we've been making. And I'm really excited to do our workshop tomorrow. That is going to be amazing. I have never taught so many people at once, 10 people. It's going to be crazy. I'm going to be running around. Everybody is going to just be making such creative magic, and the hats, I can't wait to see what hats my students are going to make. That's the best part always.
So fun. So your class, the one that we're doing, is going to be the mushroom hat class.
Yes.
A little bit like this. Now this is actually, this is a very special hat, and we'll tell you all about that. But tell us just a little bit about the mushroom hat in general.
So the mushroom hat is one of my smaller hats. It's actually one of my quicker hats to make. I actually really enjoy making these. These are kind of like...
Hold it up a little bit.
Sure.
There you go.
These are the hats I make when I need a break from making my really big classic witch hats. These are sort of my guilty pleasure. I get away and I get to play with color, and I get to play with texture. I get to add little designs. And of course, my favorite part is always doing the gills. Now, the gills are sort of dear to my heart because all last spring, I spent a good solid month just figuring out how to make the gills as best as I could. And I come up with a couple of different ways. And this is actually the simplest way and the easiest way to teach. So I'm really excited that I was able to go through all of that process of just figuring out how to like really boil it down and make it like the easiest, coolest skills possible. And I really think you're going to enjoy learning how to make this hat.
So did you tell them how they're going to learn to make this hat? Did I miss it? I just stepped off there. No. This is what Kate came to town to teach.
Yes.
But yeah, so the last 2 days she has been filming a video for our new online school. Many of you know that is soon to come this year. And this is the first workshop that Kate will do
Yes.
for the school. And it's such a great fun project. So do you want to sit for a second? We can visit about it? Cool. We'll do that. We'll sit. And so I want y'all to see this hat because it's just so fun and playful. So now, Kate, in the workshop, you show them everything. This is like your own pattern that you designed.
Exactly. It's my own signature pattern. For all of my hats, I make my own resists. So I love to sit there and figure out, okay, if I make this size, and this size, and I test them out, and when I really get one that I know is going to work, that is my golden pattern.
Yeah, and so, you know, Kate, you've been refining your techniques for many years now.
Yes.
Now, so just to jump, so just for fun.
Oh, yeah.
Now this hat, and I'll push this one over a little bit. Now, this hat, tell them about this hat.
Okay, this was one of the very first hats I actually ever made. I would say this is like maybe the 5th witch hat I Marie bought this from me so early on in my career, and it still tickles me pink to see how far I've come, because holy cow, look at this thing. It is a dinosaur. Oh my goodness. But
It's adorable.
it is very adorable, and it's held up really well over all these years.
it gets pawed a lot and handled a lot. But yeah, I'm just turning so they can see
I see.
they can see the profile. And so yeah, you've been refining your techniques, you've been refining your patterns, you've been
Yes.
refining your wool layout.
Oh,
even.
yes.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a big change in how you lay out fiber.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the resist I used to build this hat was, I would say, 50% smaller than the resists I use nowadays. And it has impacted the way the tails are shaped, the way the brims are shaped. Of course, when I started out, I was making such tiny little hats. And now, like, compared to the hats you see on my website, this hat is just a little baby. It's a little chibi. Little chibi version of the witch hats I make. So, like, it's so funny. I call this a small hat when this is actually much smaller. But this is what I nowadays consider a small, fun, sort of quick project. If it doesn't take me days and days to make, it's a quick, fun project.
So fun, so cool. Now, so this now, and the other thing is that you've really worked out how to stiffen your hats.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this has been a journey. So when I first started, I was using, believe it or not, heavy jean starch from Walmart, and it wasn't gonna work because the moment I took hats outside, they wilted because it wasn't meant to stand up to humidity or rain or any sort of weather at all. Obviously, it was just starch. So then I started using a powdered shellac that I cut with water, and I upgraded eventually to cutting it with alcohol. The rubbing alcohol you buy in the drugstore, and I used that for a long time. But it never was really fully there for me. I wanted it to have that staying power, like that really stiff durability. You know, like your hat could go with you hiking. And if you drop it down the mountain, you know, you can sort of dust it off and it doesn't collapse. And so I think within the past maybe year, maybe even less than that, I came up with this new mixture of how I make my shellac and how I stiffen my hats. And I have to say, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And I actually talk about that new mixture and how to achieve that stiffness in the tutorial that
Yeah.
we did here this couple of past days.
Yeah.
So it's kind of proprietary.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And, you know, I think that so a couple of years ago, I took your class.
Yep.
And I made my Susian
Yep.
hat.
I
and
remember.
I never wanted to do, the stiffener.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And now I think I would.
Right, because I left that bottle here for you.
Oh,
So you
that's
can
right.
use it.
That's right. That's right. Sorry, I have to make one adjustment.
No worries.
I guess we're kind of like, we're so excited that we're kind of, let's see if I can
Being
get
too
it
loud.
a
I
little
know.
bit.
This whole time we've been filming and I've just been sitting here quietly like blah, 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 blah. And now I'm all excited and I'm really loud. So we have to keep adjusting the volume.
Yeah, like I said, I'm loud and Kate's quiet, so we'll see if that's a little bit better.
Okay.
Cool. And so, so that's this mushroom hat, but we have a different mushroom hat here.
Yeah.
Let me see if we can show, I want to show this one. And we're going to answer some questions in just a moment. Y'all, thank you for sending them, and I see some of your questions coming in, and we're going to answer some in just a few.
Okay, so these both have an ombre effect, like, you know, the red to the lighter pale, and then here's the rainbow. But how I achieved these was two different ways. I used top to achieve this.
Merino
and-
top.
Yes, merino top, but all of them were separate colors, so like it wasn't like a dyed gradient.
Right.
This was a dyed gradient.
Oh, really? I had no
Yeah.
idea. And what I love about this hat is the inside is actually, that's
Yes.
why the inside is different. So the
Exactly.
inside, you don't see the purple as much. It's just a different, I don't know if y'all can see that. Magic.
So this hat was really fun to lay out, and this is kind of my specialty, doing gradients, especially with dye. I really just love rainbow. That's like my signature, I guess, colorway. That's like the colorway that was the most popular in the very beginning. As you can see, Marie has one of my very first rainbow
Yeah.
hats ever. And so rainbow all the way.
Rainbow all the way. So on that note, Kate, why don't we show, so you mentioned some of your gradients, so why don't we share a hat or two?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
and
to.
so if y'all haven't seen Kate's hats before, and so I'm going to pull up some questions right now. I'm going to pull up some questions right now, and first let's look at a couple of her hats. So what do you want? The galaxy?
Yes,
maybe?
the Galaxy hat is of the hats. It's not the blocking, it's not the making of the blank, it's the dyeing. The dyeing is what really gets you.
Well, it's just fantastic.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm glad it's worth all the time and effort.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And what about, why don't we show the reverse rainbow? How about, you want to show that one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Let's do it.
Let's look at the reverse rainbow. There's that.
So I was mentioning rainbow is sort of my signature colorway. And one person came up to me and they were like, hey, I love your rainbow hats, but I kind of don't want there to be any pink. And I was like, okay. So he told me the colors he wanted, and it's basically the exact inverted way I do my classic rainbow hat. And so I call it the reverse rainbow, and it has no pink. But, I really don't think, you can tell, it doesn't have pink. It's I start with purple and I end with red. So it's just missing that one color there between the two. But I love the way this one came out, too. I can't say one is more popular than the other. I think they're equally popular, the rainbow, the classic and the reverse rainbow. But I love dyeing them both, but it does, the rainbow hats, they are quite a challenge to dye. They really get me. They sometimes take 2 or 3 days of me down there all day, just waiting for water to get to the right temperature, dipping and dunking and
Right.
Yes, dyeing.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, these are so fun. Now, Kate, people are starting to ask questions about your, how much wool or how thick or, these kinds of questions. So,
Yeah.
Now you do different thicknesses depending on a different outcome, right?
Absolutely. So, when I'm making my classic witch hats with all the wrinkles, I usually start out with a 7-ounce bat. Now, I have 2 different types of wrinkles. I have the thick wrinkles and I have the thinner wrinkles. If I'm doing a thick wrinkled hat, I want the hat cone to be a little bit thicker. And if I'm doing a thin wrinkled hat, I will try to make the cone a little bit less chunky and make the brim thicker so that you have the weight down there. And it's really important to me that the brims have that heft to them, because I want you to be able to see that nice line as you look straight on. So I would say between 7 and 10 ounces per hat, depending.
For the big ones.
The big ones, yes.
Yeah, but the smaller ones are more like 4 to 5.
Exactly. Like this one, I think was around 4. 4
Yeah,
to 5. Yep.
yeah. I think it's between 4 and 5. Yeah, we would have had to weight it before we put the stiffener on it, but we didn't do
Yes,
that.
we did.
We did weigh the wool in the entire first passes. So, yeah, cool. Let me see who has a question. So, Kate Latz says, "Can you explain dyed gradient?" I don't know
Yes.
what the question means exactly, but
Okay.
take a stab at it.
So I actually get this question a lot. People don't know what I mean when I say a colorway. So a colorway, when I use the word, talks about how I apply the color and in the order the color is applied to the hat. So a dyed gradient basically means all of the colors you see on the hat that's up right now were all placed there by the process of dyeing. So I started out with a completely white hat, and then I added the color, through, it's called dip dyeing. And you just get a big pot and you put the water in and you put the dye in and you dunk the hat and you just do it to a certain place, and then you add another color on top. So it's kind of like layering colors. It's a little bit complicated of a process, especially when you're dealing with that many colors.
Sure.
So by dyed gradient,
Getting
I guess.
it right.
Oh God, yeah. Trust me, I've had to actually start over a few times when you're right near the end, especially with rainbow hats, and you just want to pull your hair out. But you know what? I have gone through so many learning experiences when it comes to dyeing that I feel like even those ruined projects that are buried in my basement were really good learning experiences, and I don't know. I don't feel like there are really any mistakes.
Yeah, I agree.
Because everything can be taught forward,
Yeah, that's right. You learn for your next project, and also as a teacher, you learn
to share.
Yeah,
I do all
what not to do.
I know I do all the wrong things so that you guys don't have
Exactly. If we say what not to do, it only means we did that. Probably.
to. For sure.
We probably did that. Cool.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people are asking about what do you use as a resist, and I don't think I brought the hat shapers in. Do we have them in here? I think we took them out. But and do you use a flat resist as an example? So just some tips on that.
Yeah, so the resist I use is like a very thin and flexible foam. And actually, Marie, you sell the exact
Thin-
stuff I use.
Yeah, we have a thin resistant and a thick resistant. We almost shared those today, but I think what we were talking about maybe doing them next week, the difference between the thin and the thick.
Yeah. And I prefer the thin because how I do my hats is there's a lot of turning involved to sand out seams and things like that. So I like the flexibility of the thinner resist. And the hat shapers too, you want me to talk about?
Oh, sure.
So like the thing that I use to block my hats on are the hat shapers. And I actually have very custom ones because I build onto the basic hat shaper. I start out with just, the plastic hat shaper, and then I extend the brim because you can't do an 8-inch brim hat on just such a small hat shaper. So I get a lot of questions about, I want to make a giant brimmed hat, and like there is so much more that goes into it than just buying a hat shaper.
Right. And so for those who don't know, hat shaper is a U.S. made plastic style of hat block. Traditionally, hat blocks are wooden,
And very
they're
expensive.
they're more expensive because all the labor involved.
Oh, I know, and carving it.
Right, and hatshapers.com, and we're not affiliated. We don't get none of us.
No.
We don't get any props for sharing them. But they're very old school, and so
Yes.
if you go to order a hat shaper, did they take online payments? No. For years they didn't take online
You can pay
payments.
through PayPal.
Oh, okay, yeah, you can pay through PayPal, but it's not like ordering more modern day online. It takes a little bit longer.
Tell Carol Kate sent you.
Yeah.
Basically, that will get you through the door.
Yeah. Tell Carol Kate sent you, or us, because we refer people there all the time too.
Yes.
But hat shapers, and you can pick your hat form and then block it to the hat form. And we've shared them in other tutorials and other videos, even other online workshops. We use them as well too. So that's what she means by hat shapers.
Yeah, and I wish we had it in here, but we don't.
Yeah.
But-
Well, we can probably grab it in a minute. And then so you make your own form for
Yes.
the large brims, and that's what she's saying. Kate has devised her own method, and I think you even have a paid tutorial for that, and we
Yes.
talked about putting that in the school. I
Yes,
think. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be part of another class.
Definitely.
Okay, so Phyllis asked, what inspired you to start making hats?
Okay, this is a really funny story. I actually wanted to make headbands.
Headbands.
Yes, headbands.
Like what kind of head-
cutesy little felt flower headbands.
Okay.
Way back in 2010.
Woo,
when-
eons ago.
Oh no, it was. I was a poor graduate student, and I saw these cute headbands, and I couldn't afford them, so I'm like, I'm gonna make that. And believe it or not, that started me down this journey because I was using felt, and then I thought, if I could make my own felt, I could save on supply costs. So that turned into abandoning headbands, making my own felt, which turned into making hats, which turned into making scarves, which turned into making basically everything out of felt. So yes, this all started because I was a poor graduate student who wanted to wear flower headbands.
So some people ask about what kind of fiber is good for hats. Maybe you can
Yes.
share what we made this
Yeah.
hat with today.
So I love short fiber merino bats, and they have a 19 micron one that felts really fast. It leaves a nice finish, really nice. Also, anything that is I would say 23 micron and below would be next to the skin soft because you're wearing it, against your forehead, and it would felt quickly. And we used pre-felt for the dots. We used short fiber merino for the underneath the red portion. I don't know, did they see? Yeah, the red portion there is short fiber. And then all of this gradient on top is different bits of merino top, the 19 micron merino top. Felts very quickly. That's important because when you're making the amount of hats I make, you want things to felt quickly. Otherwise, you're going to destroy your back.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So someone asked, does the dyeing of the hat shrink it further?
It does sometimes and it doesn't other times. It depends on how careful I am with letting it linger in that boiling pot of water. So if I walk away from it for a few minutes too long, it does tend to shrink it down a little. It definitely, I would say, there is no give in the brim after I dye it. So I need to make sure that brim is the right size and stretched to the correct proportions before I dye it. And sometimes when I'm going to dye a very large 8-inch brim, I let the brim be a little bit larger than I normally would.
Oh.
Especially if the brim is thinner. If I let the brim come out thinner, as opposed to thicker. The thicker brims and hats in general don't shrink down as much during the dyeing process, but the thinner hats do.
That was a good question.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
like, it's something to think about. But also, when you're felting, you have plenty of opportunity to stop and stretch a hat.
Oh my God, yes.
Pause, put it back on your hat block or hat form or whatever it is and stretch it out. When it's hot and steamy, you can stretch it out.
Very
And that's
movable.
that's the time to do it, is to check it as you go, not just get all the way to the end
And
and
of
realize.
course, there's that stage between felting and fulling. That is
Yes.
the perfect time to really make sure that everything is the size and shape you want it to be before you really lock it in there with the fulling portion.
Yeah. And so someone asked, how do you clean your hats? And so that might be good. Like, what do you tell your customers? It's the consummate question, felt makers, whether they're shipping a scarf or a purse
Yes.
or a picture or a sculpture, whatever.
It depends on what you get on your hat to make it dirty. Most often, the hats will fall off your head in the wind and roll around in the dirt and collect little bits of dirt and leaves and stuff. In that case, I just would take a very gentle baby brush that you would comb a baby's hair with, those soft bristles, and I would just very carefully brush off some of that really ingrained dirt. Or if it's sort of just surface dirt, you can use one of those lint rollers to get that off. As far as ketchup stains or something weird like that, or I don't know, grass stains, that would be much more difficult to remove. And I actually haven't had anybody come to me with a really strange stain. Most of it is just oh, I got dirt on my hat, or I got leaves and debris and I can't seem to pick it all off. So those are sort of my suggestions for the more common ways that people get their hats dirty.
That makes sense. So I see Diane says, can we get a better look at the hat on your head? Which hat? The hat. What hat? Neither of us are wearing a hat at the moment. So, Diane, let us know what hat you want to see more closely. People are asking about layers of wool, how many layers of wool and stuff. And y'all, an exact recipe for any one hat comes from the hat tutorial, you know what I mean, or the hat pattern. But the best thing to do is remember to make your own samples.
Yes.
You've got to make your own samples. Kate and I were talking about this earlier today, whether you're trying to gauge thickness, whether it's for a pair of slippers or a hat or a purse or a wall hanging, you want to test your own wool that you're using. And also, everyone pulls off wool differently. Like Kate and I pull off wool, right? Very differently. And also then my next friend and my next friend, everyone pulls off wool differently. So to give a generic number of layers of wool isn't really fair. That's like saying how many handfuls of flour do you put into something, because nobody uses a handful. We use a measuring cup.
Yes.
And layers, you can't measure that way. So it's more important for you to make a sample. And we were talking about using a sample to test your color gradients and how they migrate. Right?
Yes.
Even if you want to try stiffening something for the first time.
Yes, especially that, because you need to know how much to spray and how much to saturate your wool, because you don't want it to become overly stiff and then it's uncomfortable to wear.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking at some of these questions, and some of them, can you just felt the hats with no dyes?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course you can. You would dye the hat after the felting process anyway, but you don't have to work in white. You can start with a base color, maybe of black, and then lay your tufts over top to make your own gradient. You don't always have to dye the hat to make a gradient. We made this gradient using wool top.
Right, it wasn't dyed. And so someone asked, are we doing the dyeing in the class? And I assume you mean the online workshop. And the online workshop isn't dyeing the hat.
No.
It's felting the hat. Yeah, and you use pre-dyed wool.
Yes. Doing a dyeing workshop would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole extra thing.
Oh,
it would be a standalone thing, how to dye the hat.
Absolutely.
And people are asking about the gills, where they added later or felted along. And hey, you know what I want to tell you also? All the techniques for making this hat are going to be in the online workshop.
Yes.
And Kate came up with that, over time, really refined it.
Yeah.
But she's going to show you, if you decide to take the online class, and if you're not on our mailing list, be sure to get on our mailing list. If you go to our website, livingfelt.com, at the bottom, you can scroll down to get our newsletter, and that's how you get on our email list. And when the school launches, which should be later this spring, then you can find out more about taking Kate's class. And yeah, because traveling to a workshop isn't always feasible
No,
for
it isn't.
everybody. Mm-hmm.
So I love this idea that you're doing, Marie,
Yeah,
with the
that's
online
fun.
workship.
It's exciting. I'm glad you're teaching a class in it.
Me too.
Yeah, because people get to, it's fun to get to felt at home with a master. Someone was asking about your headband.
Well, I snatched this from the wall. Marie made this for a fairy costume, I think.
Yeah,
And I was like, can I put this on? This is really cute. And she said I could have it.
I want to look at this hat. This is amazing. This is the hat that this is a hat I was wearing at the start of the show. And now I remember, I feel like it was a couple of years ago now, maybe it was just a year ago.
Yeah, it was last year.
When you started working on this process. And I think you
Yes.
brought your first
Yes.
test
Peace.
tree.
Yeah,
hat,
tree.
yeah, with you. And man, it has come a long, long way
Yes,
since you started.
basically spent all of last spring.
Oh, let me get this picture off. Sorry. Why is this picture? We have a picture stuck up there. I'm sorry. Let me get that out of the way. There
Okay.
we go. Mm-hmm.
I basically spent all of last spring, and I'm talking like an entire month and a half, house sitting for a friend in the mountains, and there was like nothing to do there except figure out this technique. And so that's what I did. And I haven't had a chance since then because this is extremely time consuming. If I thought making my classic witch hats was time consuming, this is even more so. But I love it. This is really, really, really something I love doing. Designing the pattern of the wood and the mushrooms, and like this is my favorite part of this whole hat. I'm really proud of this part.
Yeah.
This little wool knot right here.
Let's try it. Let's try a top down on
Okay.
that. Let me see if I can cue that up for us here. Yeah. Let's go to that real fast. Yeah, that is so cool. It looks just like a cut tree branch.
And it's like 3-dimensional. I don't know if you guys can like
mhm,
see.
They can. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it like sticks out. So it's like this was a tree in the forest. Actually, I have a friend who always jokes with me that I don't make these hats. I go into the forest and collect them growing organically from like a magical land. And you know, he's probably not even a little bit wrong, because in my mind, that is kind of what I do. But I also I'm really proud of this little guy. I stuck these old buttons in here to make the holes, and it goes all the way in and through. I was actually going to put like glass eyes in there to make it like freaky.
That'd be so good.
Maybe a future project.
That sounds really good.
And there's a little bit of Nuno felting involved, and of course there's Muga silk, there's wool nips. This was just such a fun hat to make. This is my baby. I want to make more hats like this.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now, someone asked, do you sell your hats? And so, yes. Yeah, she sells her hats. And this hat is currently in her online shop, which is feltwicked.art.
Yes, feltwicked.art. And it's in the one-of-a-kind section.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to just pop up here. I think this, I think I could pop up here so y'all can go to Kate's. You can follow Kate. Let me see if I can go there and pop that up for you. So just so that you can look her up online at feltwicked.art and follow her on Instagram as well. I mean, I have to say, your imagery is just so tasty. I mean, you do such a good job of photographing your pieces and making them
Thank you.
irresistible.
I'm definitely not a photographer, and you know, whenever I can, I use a model because I much prefer to be behind the camera than in front of the camera. But I've sort of learned as I've went, like taking the photos, editing the photos. As much as I can do, I do all of that, and because I know exactly how I want my product to look. I have a vision in my head. I've always loved fantasy, and like being in the fantasy photos, creating the fantasy photos with these hats is just the funnest part of this whole process. Well, not the funnest, but I mean, hell, every part of this process is fun.
Oh, let's see. So Deborah Young asked you, do you needle felt any of the designs onto your hats?
I do sometimes. With this particular hat, no, but there are other hats I've done in the past where on the brim, people have requested special custom designs, and I have needle felted those on, and those came out really cool.
Someone asked, Sandra wants to see the inside.
The inside's not very exciting.
Plain. Well, and it's stuff that's plastic up in there for shipping. So that white you see up there, that's
Oh
just,
yeah, and
that's
also
just stuffing for shipping.
to support it on the hat thing too.
Yeah, because they were mailed here. So, yeah. And let's see. So someone asked, is the online class going to be advanced or beginner? And we would say it's intermediate.
Yes.
So we're encouraging that if you take Kate's online class, what you'll find in the school is there's going to be some free lessons in the school for wet felting and needle felting too. But you'll want to take advantage of some of the free classes and learn. We always say, and Kate and I really agree on this, is the first thing to do is to learn to make a really good piece of felt. Flat felt, pot holder, trivet, coaster, something. Cut it up, make it into a bookmark.
Because a lot of new felters tend to underfelt.
Under felt.
Yeah, I know I did in the beginning.
Me too.
Because I didn't really understand what made a piece of felt.
Yes.
I remember
correct.
standing in the bathtub with hot water everywhere, just screaming at my piece, felt! It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. So learn to make a good piece of felt first, even if you just make it flat, and then learn to felt over a resist.
Yes.
Make a bowl, make a vase, make a simple hat, but just make something round.
Everybody is so excited to jump right into the project. And I totally get it. But at the same time, you're going to be disappointed at the end if you haven't really gotten to know your wool. Like, all
That's
wool
right.
has a personality.
That's right.
Your tools all have a personality. How they all work together, it all just has its own personality, and you have to get to know it before you can really craft something that you are going to be really satisfied with.
Yeah, that's what we were visiting about that a little bit today, like how many people will jump into a project, even like the mushroom hat, and use materials, wools that they've never used before, and get an outcome and think, why they won't think, why did I get this outcome? They'll just think, oh, this didn't work, rather than having a familiarity with their fibers first. So we always encourage making a sample, especially if you're using new fibers, but also sometimes you're using fibers in a different combination, or you're using a different teacher's method.
Yes.
And so you need to measure the shrinkage. So unless you're really familiar with the shrinkage of your wool,
Yes.
yeah, it would be important to make a sample and just.
Especially with something that you need to fit a certain size.
Yes, this is a size thing.
Yes.
It's not a bowl.
Shrinkage is important if it needs to fit on your head.
Yeah, and so someone asked earlier, and I probably can't scroll back to that, but how do you know the difference? Like, you make hats for other people, how do you vary the sizes?
So, when somebody orders a size, I use the same resist for each size. And how I control the size is through the fulling stage. So when the hats are done being felted and I take them out of the resist, it's the fulling stage that lets me know how far to shrink it, because I'll keep taking the hat out of the fulling process, putting it on the block of the size that the person requested, and once it fits, I stop fulling. It's just that simple.
Yeah, but it is possible to use different size resists.
It is.
Yeah, and so in your class, we're giving 3 different size resists, or 2. I think we're giving 2 different size resists. So an extra small.
Yep.
And then a small medium.
Yep.
And then if you want to do a large, is that right?
No, that is true. And the reason we're doing that for the class is because, I've been doing this so long and I've made so many of these that I can eyeball it. That's why I can use just one resist. It's so much easier, though, when you're using the resist that's the right size to begin with. And you don't have to worry so much about it.
That's true. And so, yeah, you'll be able, in the online class, and this is not really a commercial for the class, but I know so many of you are going to, want to do it too. But just so you know that in the online class, you'll be able to download the exact pattern.
Yep, that I drew myself.
Yeah, she drew herself for the
mushroom hat.
The mushroom hat.
That guy back there.
So someone asked, how do you know when your felt is finished? Good question.
When you've been doing this as long as me, you just know. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can feel it with my fingers. Like, I know what finished felt feels like, but you can also do something called the pinch test, which is so classic, right?
Yes.
Basically, you pinch the wool. If it comes up as a solid single unit, you know it's felted. If it kind of comes up and it's wispy and there's not all of it coming up and there's just bits and wisps and it's not holding together, it's not done. Keep going. But yeah, like, I've gotten to the point where now I can literally run my fingers down a project and know, oh, this spot is slightly less felted than that spot, and that spot needs just a touch more attention. And that literally just comes with practice. You will get to know the way felted wool feels if you touch it enough.
Right, and if you cut your teeth on making a flat piece of felt first, I always say that the first rinse is very, very telling, because when you still have all your soap in there, then
it acts like a glue.
Yes, it holds all the fibers together. So if you rinse, and I say rinse, especially when you're brand new, rinse and let it set overnight. If you can pull those fibers apart with your fingers, it's not done. You should have a solid piece of fabric that you could cut with a piece of scissors, cut with scissors.
A pair of scissors.
Yeah, a pair of scissors, and it will have a straight, blunt edge, not fluffy and loose. And that's when you know you have a good piece of felt. And save that piece of felt back, and use your time wisely and use that as a shrinkage measurement. So start with a 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12 layout. Lay out whatever, 3 or 4 layers. Practice laying out thin layers, even layers, having no bare spots. Use it as a real practice tool and shrink it down. I say, like, if you're first starting, I encourage people to felt it down as far as you can. Like,
that's a
get in there.
interesting process.
Yeah, just get in there and shrink it.
You'll be surprised how much it shrinks and how hard it gets.
Depending on the microns. Now.
Right, of course.
So if you just buy something mystery bag at the fiber fair, and it turns out you just bought some 30 micron or
oh lordy,
God forbid, superwash that you just
that happened to me once. It totally did. I was felting this project, this scarf, and it wasn't felting, and I was getting so mad. And then I looked, and I'm like,
superwash. Superwash. So for those of you who don't know, superwashed fiber has been treated with some kind of chemical that really strips the fiber of its scales.
Yes.
And so it's because of the scales that we're able to get the fiber to entangle and lock in on each other and make felt. But superwash is really what they do with fibers so that you can knit a sweater and wash it.
Exactly.
Whatever.
But I did find a use for that superwash.
What?
I found that if you lay it on top of a really hairy wool and felt it into it, it actually works kind of like Nuno felting. Like you're felting something into it. It will catch it and hold it.
How interesting.
It's really cool. So I ended up not wasting all of it.
That's so cool. So Teresa Dudek asked a nice question. She said, can you overfelt, and if so, what happens?
I mean,
Maybe something like a sander is different, or depending
Yes.
what you have on your sander. So I think the thing is, like Kate's talking about, is to pay attention to the purpose of the felt. Like one thing is, people, like when they're making wrist warmers, very often they'll overfold them, and now they have like these bulletproof cups, and they're not really wearable.
Yeah, you want them to be somewhat flexible.
Yeah, and they're gonna pill a bit when you wear them. They're just going to, because fiber is going to pill. So
Yes.
for that's just something to think about. And the more samples you make as you go along and note what fibers you use, then you'll start to gauge how felted you want a particular project to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, on how much you want to full it. Let's see. I'm going to ask just a couple of questions here. So people are asking, how long does it take? Well, let's just say that every project is different. How long to full something? Every project is different. But
Yes.
for example, the mushroom hat you made in a day and a half,
Yeah.
and that's blocking and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, that was all time condensed. There was long periods of time where we were waiting for things to dry.
Sure. Overall, I mean, you didn't spend more than 3-4 hours maybe felting the hat.
Yes, exactly. And the layout, and we did all that. And of course, we were stopping and gabbing and let's redo this part and let's get a different angle here. So I could make a mushroom hat at home without this slave driver. I could make a mushroom hat at home in like 3 hours. So it's a very simple project, really, without, if you cut everything else out, with all the explaining and talking and us, being fiber geeks.
Fellow geek Sheree Davidson says, Kate, your imagination is magical and your whimsical spirit is contagious. Such fun.
Thank you.
And interesting, Connie Houston asks, what about using silk as a base?
So you mean as the actual inside portion? You could, yeah, definitely. It would be somewhat tricky to wrap it around the resist, and get it to stay, you'd have to use, get it wet and maybe use a little bit of soap to
Yeah, definitely.
seal up the edges. But yeah, you could do that.
Usually silk, silk first became incorporated into the felting process. It was to make a flexible felt. But I've used it as a lining, like in a purse.
Yeah.
Especially like to give like a whole pink, bubbly inner lining of that. And so you can definitely do it. And in fact, Dawn Edwards, is she watching? Have you seen Dawn? Hi,
Yeah,
Dawn.
I saw her.
So Dawn, my friend, another dear friend, Dawn Edwards, a famous hat maker as well, also has a class coming up in the online school, and her hats are nuno-felted, so they do have a base layer of silk.
There you go.
Yeah, and one is very shaped and very form-fitting. Yeah, and so it's absolutely possible.
The great thing about felt is that you can do so much. Like, it's one of the most, I think, plastique of all of the art forms when it comes to like what you can make.
I agree.
You can just literally make almost anything you can think of.
I agree.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think it's the most exciting medium I've ever come across because it's so versatile and flexible. And
Yes.
yeah, for sure.
I've had people who have sent me drawings of what they want, and like I have literally turned people's drawings into three-dimensional creations that they can actually wear in their heads. And that's just such a cool thing, right?
Yeah.
To have something two-dimensional that you just sketched out quick suddenly be real.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
agree.
favorite thing ever.
And so someone asked, how do you know what shape of the template to make? But maybe now really you have worked your way through this.
Oh,
through
yes.
Hundreds and hundreds
And
of
square
hats.
meters of yes.
And
Yes.
hats, right? I mean, this lady makes a ton of hats every
Yes.
year.
Oh,
But
yes.
maybe just talk to us a little bit about your discovery, coming up with the hat design.
Yeah.
How do you approach it? Just maybe a little artistic insights.
So I guess I'll take you through the process of if I want to create new hat shape, because obviously my classic witch hats are just
We want the quick fix. We don't want to do the exercise and eat the food, but you know what I mean? And so, but for you really work it out and you spend a lot of time
yes,
discovering and creating and devising
that's
methods.
my favorite part.
Yeah.
Like it's like the journey of like conquering that new idea. When you get an idea in your head and you're like, could I do that? Could I make that a reality? And then you do, like, that's the best feeling. So
Awesome. I love seeing all these. I love that we can share them. Now, a couple of people have asked about your necklace, Kate.
oh yeah, I totally forgot I was wearing this. I made this years ago. Literally, I used to make these for my Etsy store, and they would sell. They are very time consuming, and actually this is a needle felted, each of these little links is needle felted, and the links are needle felted one after another and then linked together as I go. And then what I do is once they're all needle felted and attached, I get them wet and soapy and I toss them around for a bit so they are wet felted in the end. So it's a combination of the two. Like I said, it takes forever. I don't make them anymore. Please don't ask me to make you one. It's a really simple concept. I think you can make your own if you're familiar with needle felting. But yeah, they're really beautiful and fun. And go ahead, try it yourself.
Okay, so we're going to do one last question. I know a couple of you have asked, I think, and that is they've asked about whether you and the online class, whether you felt by hand or with a sander. So maybe you can talk about.
Yes, I always felt with a sander because if I were to felt with just a palm washboard or with just elbow grease, I would be old before my time and be going to see the chiropractor every day. It's really hard on your back to do it all by hand. And the class that we taught here is done with a sander. But I do talk about ways that you could achieve the same results without a sander. And especially when you're using a lower micron, like a 19 micron wool, it will felt quickly. Especially like, I don't do this as a hobby, I do it as my job. So I need to be as good to my body as possible and sort of use the technology like the sander to help me stay healthy. But if you're just doing it as a hobby, or if you don't do it like anything but more occasionally, doing it by hand is just fine, and it's not a complicated process. Basically, felt becomes felt by agitation.
Right.
The sander agitates it. Your hand can agitate it.
Or a palm washboard.
Or a palm washboard.
Mhm. Or rolling.
Exactly. There are many, many ways to turn
Yeah.
felt into what it is.
Yeah, I felt a lot with my hands, and I like felting with
She's
my
crazy.
hands. But I don't felt as much as Kate, quite honestly. And so, seeing you felt with a sander, and it's my sander, which is funny, because, like, I mean, it gets used more by my guests than me, because I love the quiet therapy of felting,
And
But-
I love popping in my, earphones and just like rocking out to some music
Yeah.
while my sanders are.
Yeah, so and the truth is, like, every way is valid, and just making a good felt is the most important thing. But we
Yes.
are going to show you how to use a sander. In fact, a few of the lessons in the online school, we used a sander, and some we don't. So, and some we just use them for a portion. So it's open for you to explore and check out, and each teacher even uses them a little bit differently, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
And I love seeing how different teachers felt, and for me that's really the magic. Is I've had just been blessed to meet so many teachers and see them teach even very similar projects and see a variety in the way they felt and the way they lay out. And many of you felt with me all the time, and I'm just one. I just have one way, my way. It's like being in someone else's kitchen and
Yes.
learning how they cook. So I hope that you get the opportunity to learn from someone else, and make sure that you visit Kate. So I'm just going to pop that up here one more time. Follow Kate at Felt Wicked, and y'all can also follow us. So let me see. I'm going to just share with y'all a link for us as well. So you can follow us online. I'll put it here. I'll take off that one. So you can follow us online. We're on Instagram, and you can also follow Kate. She's on Instagram, and her website is feltwicked.art.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
And also check out our Facebook group, LivingFelt Friends. Kate, you're going to get some comments after the show, so get ready. You can have homework tonight.
Okay.
A little bit. I know. Everyone's going to comment in the group. But we're going to do giveaway prizes.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So the fairies are back, y'all. Let me switch it. So the fairies are back. We're going to give away some prizes. Let's leave Kate in here. So Kate's going to help draw some names. So thank you, everyone. Y'all come this way a little bit. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the conversation today, and everyone who has been putting your name into her magical hat. That hat is also very, very old. Very old. So we're going to draw some prizes. Anne, do you want to tell us about our prizes first? How about
Absolutely.
I'll hold.
Oh, thank you. We picked the most awkward baskets. Prize number 1, 2 ounces of our MC1 batting and 2 ounces of the short fiber merino bat in your choice of colors.
Yeah, and also our coveted olive oil soap. So you're going to get a 3-ounce bar, or it's like 100 grams or whatever that is. I don't know what it is, of our olive oil soap that we always use. And this is a treat because we don't even sell the merino short fiber bat in 2 ounces. We only sell it in 4 ounces. But you can felt these two together. So if you just want to experiment with wet felting, the MC1's going to add a little more stiffness because it's a 25 micron, and the short fiber bat is 19 micron. So you get to see 2 of our most popular battings and see how they felt together or separate. In fact, Kate, when you were here last time, we felted these together for our hats.
We did.
Yeah.
It's
so,
a nice mixture.
Yeah, so if you want that prize, choose this one, or the second prize you can choose.
Second prize, again, the fabulous, the wonderful olive oil soap. Some of our thin resist that Kate likes using to make her hats.
Yes.
And then some wet felting mesh as well.
Yeah, so you can choose. So okay, we're going to draw a couple of names right now, and you can just let us know whether you want prize 1 or prize 2. So why don't we let Kate draw first?
The magical winner is Cindy Sadon? Sadon?
Sandon? Candy?
Yay, Cindy! Okay.
Candy! Not Cindy, sorry.
Oh, it's Candy. Okay, so Candy Saindon, you are our first winner. You can pick prize 1 or prize 2.
Sorry, I butchered your name.
That's okay. I saw it wrong
Do you
too.
want to go? Or do you want to?
I would love to.
Angel Hewitt.
Yay, Angel! And one more prize. You're going to pick 3 winners today.
Miss Holly.
Deborah Young.
Yay! All right, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. I know that we had a couple of technical issues with today's feed, and that was the live streaming, but we have recorded the show, so what we'll do is our best to get it maybe re-uploaded, the non-live version, so that you can watch it back without the freezes and without the blips. But thank you everyone who stuck with us. If we drew your name for a prize and you're not in our customer database, meaning you've never ordered anything from us, go to our website, scroll to the bottom and click contact us, and just send us your information. We'll get it shipped out to you right away this week, no matter where you are in the world. We're going to send these prizes your way. So thanks for spending this hour with us. We hope that you get a chance to take Kate's online class, and make sure you follow her at Felt Wicked Art and us at LivingFelt. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.